And welcome back to another episode of Big Ten Live Ocho Edition, aka the Ocho, here at the Voice of College Football. My name's John D'Adamo, and I'm going to be your host today. Go ahead and follow me on, as Moose likes to call it, Twix, at John D'Adamo. I host this show as well as a show called Michigan Wolverines Live, which will be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to dive into a lot of topics there. But first and foremost, obviously, we do want to just do a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, of course, as you come in, as I always like to ask, hit that like button. It just takes a second. Hit the subscribe and share this out with a friend. Take the YouTube link, put it out on social, put it out on Discord, whatever you want to do. We're going to have our community panel today. It's going to be great. So go ahead and do that. If you do have a comment or question, you want it to the top of the list, you can go ahead and send a super chat, and that'll make that happen for you. And two other notes real quick. Coming up this Thursday, or this Wednesday, I'm sorry, I can't tell time. This Wednesday, Mark is going to be doing the State of the Voice of College Football. So we had the State of the Union, now the one you want to watch, the State of the Voice of College Football. That's going to be Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to talk about the channel, the network, and what you'd like to see coming up next. Also, Mark has sent out a poll, so you guys please go ahead and fill that out with your preferences and your likes, so that we can better serve you guys as a community in the coming months. Also, we do have the Texas channel relaunching. We have a launch party coming up April 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern on the main channel and the Texas channel. And as they say, don't mess with Texas. Is anybody here messing with Texas? I want to hear in chat. Are you guys messing with Texas? Don't do it. Don't mess with Texas. All right, everybody. So we do have our community panel today, and we're going to begin, as we do a lot of weeks, with our guy, Mr. I wear my sunglasses at night here, Double J, Jackson Johnson in the house, fresh off another Paul Feinbaum discussion. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. This isn't gonna go to commercial break, is it?
No.
Nah, we're all good. I'm just kidding with you.
We are all good.
John?
I am good. I'm good. But yeah, you've been having some fun times lately with our buddy Paul Feinbaum. So lots of insight there, and you've asked him some good questions. I will say that, like, he's especially on the ACC thing, and what he thought on realignment. I thought that was he actually gave a decent answer, because sometimes when it comes to certain teams, it can be a little shaky, but he did really well on answering your question.
Well, thank you, man. I'm just making sure I call in on there as much as I can. I mean, so I called in like twice last week. First time was Tuesday. Second time was Friday, where I was asking about the John Calipari era, whether it's going to end or not.
Well,
and should they get Chris Collins?
Well, who knows? We'll find out. All right, next up, I'm just going to go in order here. We got Moose, Michigan fan and friend of the network, back with us. Hey, Moose, go Blue.
Go Blue. What's up, Double J and John? How's it going? I will say one thing. I didn't have the greatest birthday. Michigan lost in basketball. Women, they lost in the first round. The Red Wings lost, and Michigan lost in the Big Ten tournament championship in hockey. So it wasn't a real good birthday, but it was all right.
Yeah, I said happy birthday the day before, right? I was running around the day up, but
wait, how many days ago was your birthday, Moose?
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Well, you got 5 days of the birth week. You can celebrate.
You got a birthday. Yeah, Double J is a big fan of the birthday week.
Yeah. I'm about to hit my 1 year. I'm about to hit my 1-year anniversary for being a member on Mark's channel, so that's cool.
Yeah! That's right. And if you want to join people who have been here as a member almost a year, don't forget that for as low as $2.99, you can see it scrolling at the bottom here right now. Join a YouTube membership or Patreon to get access to the College Football After Dark panel. Mark's betting guide during the season, special clips and special things that we'll be doing. So definitely thank you, Moose, for doing that for a year.
No problem.
Coming up next, we've got one of our resident Reasonable Buckeyes back with us, Sean Garner in the house. Hey, Sean.
Hey, John. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. It's been kind of a crazy day. This is actually a nice little. It's almost like it's a little relaxation, like I'm on a beach or something. But I'm talking college football.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot to talk to. Shout out real quick first off to my alma mater, the Oakland University Golden Grizzlies.
Hey, there you go.
The boys from Rochester downing the mighty Kentucky Wildcats, as we all knew they would. Sure, everyone had.
I am sorry that your alma mater lost to DJ Burns and the Wolfpack.
Yeah. Nothing to apologize for. Overtime, very close. Almost made the Sweet 16, which
I will be honest. I was glad they beat Kentucky because I'll be honest, I get so sick to death of hearing about Kentucky this, Kentucky that. Oh my God, Kentucky's got this so great. Yeah, they're not. They're not Kentucky from 2012. They're a complete total disaster in March Madness.
Well, Jackson. According to the real, Kentucky is the pinnacle of basketball. So
Pinnacles of basketball don't get their butts blasted by St. Peter's and Oakland.
Hey.
Well, on that note, so we do have a special guest to the panel here today.
I do have to drill Mark Rogers for one thing. Last week, he put out a video, something about the college basketball tournament as college football teams.
Oh yeah, that's right. Kind of like an equivalent.
Yeah, and he substituted, like if you didn't have a football team or an FBS football team, he would just put in a school. And his choice for Oakland as a replacement was Stanford.
Oh.
Which I don't know if you realize Palo Alto
it's a little bit of a disparity.
Is about 2,500 miles away from Oakland, from Rochester, Michigan. So, yeah. Well, lots of people are learning that Oakland University is not in the Bay Area.
Well, little geography for us today. All right, let's bring on a guy that I've done some shows with. Some of you may have seen him or have watched shows with him in the past, but we've got Louisville fan here, Austin Williams in the house. Austin, thanks for joining the Ocho.
What's up, John? What's up, panel? I'm glad to be here with you all. Cannot wait to talk some Big Ten football.
Austin, one question for you. How does it feel to hear the pinnacle of college basketball getting smacked around by Oakland?
Jackson, I've never been more happier in my life. I don't care who Kentucky plays, as long as they lose. That's all that matters. They could be playing Michigan.
And paging, that's real MVP's music.
John knows why I'm happy about that game. That's the only reason why I watched it.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks everybody for stopping by the panel, and we are going to begin with the news that we just learned, which I'm very excited about, because I was, in the past, these games, you have to kind of dig to really enjoy them. You either have to be a premium member of something or get your YouTube TV going, and they happen to have it. But there's been some difficulty, at least on the Michigan side, seeing these games. So we just learned that Fox is going to be airing the Ohio State spring game and the Michigan spring game on Saturday, April 13th for Ohio State, and Saturday, April 20th for Michigan, both at noon. So before we dive into each one, because we're going to dive into each one, I first want to ask everybody, starting with Jackson, a question. Is this proof, the decision to air these games when normally they might be buried somewhere, at least the Michigan one used to be, is this proof that these are the at least two of the largest brands in college football, if not the two largest brands in college football? I'm starting with Jackson.
I thought that Michigan and Ohio State were two of the largest brands in college football. I mean, when I'm thinking of the largest brands of college football, I'm thinking of Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, Alabama, Miami, Florida State, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
Absolutely. Moose, what do you think?
I think as far as views and and money, I think Michigan and Ohio State they're probably at the top over everyone else. I mean, you look at what Michigan and Alabama did in the Rose Bowl. Wasn't it almost 28 million viewers? And then in Michigan, Ohio State was what, almost 20 million just in the regular season.
19.07 million, which is the largest audience for that game since the 1 versus 2 in 2006, where they got 21 million, and the second largest since 1978 with 19.24. So it was up there this year for sure. All right, let's go, Sean. What's your take on the decision that Fox has made to air these games?
It just shows you how much power these brands have behind them. It makes a lot of sense. This is going to outdraw most of. This is kind of a lean time for sports, especially the sports that Fox has access to. They're not, there's not many big live sporting events going on mid-April, so it makes a lot of sense for them to put it on. I don't know. As far as like spring game anticipation, I don't think there's. I don't care about the spring game generally ever. It's not. I think they're kind of boring. I'm not real excited to watch it. I'll tune in. I'll watch them just because, look for a few things, but there's no drama in the game at all. And, I think it's a pretty boring event. They're pretty desperate if they're airing a spring game.
But do you think that maybe because that Fox has decided to do this, maybe both teams are going to maybe script things out a little more in terms, especially since they both have quarterback battles where, team Scarlet, can have Devin Brown and team Gray, like, what I mean? And same thing with Michigan. Yeah. Like, do you think that both teams will try to, to do that to your point? Yeah, they do tend to be a little bit of a snoozer.
Yeah, hopefully they do something to add a little bit of drama to the game. Yeah. Find a way to have like equal teams and maybe have it look like a real football game at least. But
yeah. Austin. So again, thanks for joining us. I think this might be your first time on the Ocho, so we really appreciate you calling in. So what's kind of your take on these brands here and Fox deciding to do this?
Well, John, it shows me one of two things. Number one is Michigan, Ohio State have a lot of equity within the college football world. Mm-hmm. Whereas it used to be a lot of times back in the day where Ohio State would get a lot of these premier things like, oh, let's put Ohio State on Fox and all these other networks, whereas Michigan, ever since Jim Harbaugh's come back around, has kind of earned some equity back in their brand. And I think that this is a big stepping stone for college football because now we can expand going forward. Now we can see maybe some of the smaller teams later on when we when they start getting these TV deals and stuff worked out, maybe like some of these smaller teams getting exposures that they would never get before. So I think Ohio State and Michigan setting the standard could really be good for college football as a whole and for their brand as a whole as well.
So we've discussed this before about the Sports Illustrated desirability ratings, and this is obviously from a couple years ago when things were a little bit different in terms of the rankings and things like that. However, you can see that based on their analysis, Ohio State and Michigan are literally 1 and 2, and I would argue that really hasn't changed, except maybe you could argue which are who's who there in 1 and 2, but I don't think you can argue that those are still the top 2, honestly, based on what they're looking at here.
No.
Yeah.
These are the 2 premier brands in college football. They have been for a while. Michigan, even when Michigan was struggling with their football program, there's always this belief that it's just a matter of time to get the right guy in there, and they'll kick ass again. And that's proven to be true. And Ohio State's the most consistent program in the country. So, yeah, these are. They're not airing the Purdue spring game, I don't think, on Fox.
I mean, it's better. I mean, a Purdue spring game is better than another rerun of The Simpsons. I mean,
no. Give me a first 8 or 9 season episode of The Simpsons over any.
I was talking about current season Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
That's tight.
I prefer Family Guy over The Simpsons.
Simpsons did it. Remember that? From South Park. Simpsons did it. And they really did. I mean, they predict so much stuff. It's like I don't know who has a time machine on that writing staff, but it's crazy.
Ask them when's the next time Nebraska will win a conference title. That would be a good one.
Yeah, maybe we should get a writer of that could be. Maybe we should recommend that for the state of the voice of college football when Mark takes recommendations. We get a Simpsons writer to come and give predictions. That might be interesting.
There we go. Or when Penn State can beat Ohio State, again.
Well, yeah, that might take a minute. But here we go. So we're gonna dive into each spring game, and we'll start, of course, with the corresponding fan of each one. So we start with Ohio State, which is going to be airing Saturday, April 13th at noon. What do you think, Sean? If people are taking their Saturday, or they're taping it, they're using YouTube TV or whatever to tape it and watch it later. If they want to go and do other things. What should they be looking at, in terms of things to look at for the Ohio State spring game?
Well, a lot will depend on how they structure it. Sometimes they structure it more as like first they'll have the ones against the ones and the twos against the twos. If that's the case, just see who's taking the majority of the reps with the first team. If they try to have like a balanced, scarlet and gray, like what would you say, like those the recess pickup games where you just take turns picking guys. If they try to have it a more balanced game, obviously the quarterback will be something to look at. Not just who looks better, but who's getting more reps in the game. Will Howard, I think, is clearly the front runner, but it's not over as a quarterback competition. Devin Brown still has fighting life in them, and then I'm interested also to see how the reps get split among the freshmen, Julian Sayin and Aaron Noland. And then there's also some position battles. The second linebacker, the will linebacker position, you got 2 5-stars battling it out, C.J. Hicks and Sonny Styles. Apparently, I think CJ's got the early lead in that race because he's just more experienced at the position, knows how to play it better. But I think Sonny may have a little more upside. And then, watch out for these superstar, these extremely talented receivers. Outside of Ibuka, there isn't a whole lot of experience in this receiving core, but this is like maybe as far as like recruiting rankings, this may be the most highly touted receiving core in the history of college football. I don't think that's overstating it at all. You've got 3 legitimate 5 stars in there, and then guys like Brandon Ennis and Jaden Ballard, who were also very highly sought after. So very intense competition at the receiving room. And
unless you want to call it unless you want to go honorary 5-star, because I would call Olave an honorary 5-star, even though I don't think he was one. But he
was not one. But he's and then offensive line ish. I think they're still trying to figure that out. Here, Seth McLaughlin and Carson Hinsman are battling for the starting center role. And I think Josh Fryer has been taking some reps at both right guard and right tackle through the process. So be interesting to see how they configure those five guys along the line of scrimmage. And then, but there's also just a lot of continuity because this team is very, very experienced. And so, mostly we kind of know how most of the lineup is going to shake out. So only a few really key position battles. And then also seeing Chip Kelly's offense, however much they decide to unveil.
Yeah, probably minimal.
Public, but see if maybe there will be some interesting concepts that we haven't seen before at Ohio State.
What's everybody else excited about? JJ?
Well, I'm curious to see what it's going to be like seeing the mentor work for the protege.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see that storyline.
Yeah, I would argue he might be the only person where Ryan Day is fully willing to give up play calling and he might be the only person, except maybe a handful of others, but with the wide receiver coach that Hartline, he just didn't seem to be willing to give that up fully, and maybe because Hartline wasn't picking it up fast enough or whatever. But with Chip Kelly, there's trust, there's implicit trust there. There's a lot of experience and playing time, and going all the way back to Ryan Day's quarterback days. So he might be one of the few guys on planet Earth that Ryan Day actually trusts to do this. Moose, what are you going to be looking for? Because I know you and I are going to be watching this game.
The Ohio State or the Michigan game?
We'll start with Ohio State. Yeah,
I'm most looking forward to. I think they're going to be just like Michigan. They're not going to reveal much in their hand. So if it's going to be on TV, but I'm most interested in seeing the quarterbacks going at it. It's just like Michigan. We're not 100% on who's going to be the man at quarterback. So I think Ohio State's, they're kind of in a similar situation. I know they have a transfer, but I'm curious about that mostly.
Austin, are you gonna? What are you gonna be looking for in this one?
I've got a couple of things I'm kind of interested to see with Ohio State. My number one is obviously, like y'all mentioned, the quarterback battle. Will Howard transferred from Kansas State to Ohio State. I'm sure not to sit on the bench, so I'm sure he's got a competitive fire lit under his butt, so to speak. And number two is, can Ohio State replace Marvin Harrison's production? And Ime Abuku, I can't say his last name, Abuko, and Fleming, those guys. Abuka, yeah. I believe Fleming transferred out. I believe Abuka's still there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they replace a lot of their receiving talent that they lost, and especially one of Marvin Harrison, who's a once-in-a-lifetime talent. Those are a couple things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the flip side, of course, the other team that has a spring game where you don't have to dig. Moose, you remember the days we had to dig through God knows how many YouTube clips and whatever else to try to get enough of the spring game. And some years they did like a BS, like half one or a quarter one, where they mostly just did scrimmages and drills and stuff and a little bit of gameplay. But this is they're putting the spring game on Fox, April 20th, noon Eastern. Moose, what are you going to be looking for the Michigan spring game?
The first one is the quarterbacks. Obviously, like I just said, I'm interested to see how the quarterbacks play. I know it's just a spring practice, but it's a spring game. But also, John, we lost 6 offensive linemen, so that's another spot that I'm also curious about. I want to see how the new people come in, if they're able to replace them or not, how they do. I'm also hearing a lot of buzz about DJ Waller. His name's been brought up a lot that I've been hearing about. They're saying he's doing outstanding. He's been doing outstanding in his practices, and they think he could be Will Johnson's CB2. He could be on the other side of Will Johnson playing CB2. I've also heard about Jair. I've been hearing a little bit about Jair Hill too. He said he's been doing good. I also been hearing about Cole Sullivan too in practice, so it'd be interesting to see if he can start in his freshman year. I think from the tape I've seen on him, the dude's incredible. I know he has the ability to start. He can do it. He's talented enough.
Do you think that they're going to call? Because we saw 2 completions from Alex Orji in last year's spring game. Do you think that Kirk Campbell or whoever is the OC for that team is going to call, whatever team is Orji on, is going to call, a lot more of those? Because we saw 1 short completion, one I'd call it a mid-range. Both were hit. So what do you think we're going to need to see to start thinking of Alex Orji as QB1 or the QB1 leader?
Well, John, that's my worry with Alex Orji. He's been getting a lot of buzz in practice, a lot more than anyone else. But my biggest issue with him is his accuracy. He's got a good arm, but I think Denico has a better arm than Orji does. I think he's more accurate. Yeah. I think if Orji's going to be starting, I think it's going to have to be more RPO kind of style offense, because that's what fits him the best. Yep. He's more of a run pass, fake play action, whatever. But yeah, I think that's going to have to be, if he's going to be the guy, they're probably going to have to change their offense up a little bit.
Yep, for sure. And they've shown in the past that they're willing to tweak offenses for personnel. And depending on, obviously, with the defense, we saw it with Hutch and Ojabo, and kind of in 2021, shifting things around them, and then of course going more to a systematic approach in 22 and 23. So they've shown that they're willing to an extent shift things a little bit to the quarterback's strengths. Cade and JJ, for example, had very different strengths, and they play called for both very differently. So with that said, I did hear one other name, Moose, which is Zach Marshall. So Zach Marshall at tight end, who I had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing back at 6-8 months ago. And he seemed, when I talked to him, he seemed very dialed in. He seemed accepting of his role as, look, he's probably just going to take a few snaps against Minnesota, but at the end of the day, like he was going through the system, talking about his experiences with Herbert and talking about everything. He seems like the type of guy to take a step up, and it sounds like that's what he's doing in practice so far. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's another one I forgot to mention. Yeah, Zach Marshall's name has been brought up a few times. They said he's doing very well. Another guy that I'm curious to see out there play is Jaden Davis. We'll see what he can do in spring practice.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see Channing Goodwin, and both were supposed to redshirt but we will at least see what Jaden Davis and Channing Goodwin can do in the spring game a little.
And I think Jaden Davis is better than I think he's a 5-star. That I think 247 dropped him for some reason. I don't know why, but I think he's a 5-star. But I think he's capable if he can get coached quick enough. He could be QB1 in his freshman year. We'll see, but I'm curious about that too. I want to see how he does.
Absolutely. Double J, your thoughts on Michigan? What to look for?
I'm curious to see what's going to happen for the 2024 season. Can they do enough to see if they can repeat as national champs? Can they get back in the playoff field? Are they going to be able to? What is going on with the Michigan Wolverines in Sharon Moore's first year? And can Sharon Moore be the next Ryan Day? That's going to be the question.
Oh, that's an interesting question. For a lot of reasons. Yeah. Sean, you go ahead. You could answer that or just give your thoughts on the Michigan game.
No, I'll let that one slide. It is all about the offense to me. I think a lot of the names and the faces coming back on defense. They should be excellent. Again, this is not often a program like this has this many question marks on one side of the football. I mean, it is like an entirely new offense. If Donovan Edwards didn't come back, you would have like Colston Loveland and a bunch of just people we don't know yet.
Yeah, Tyler Morris, and that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see who obviously there's a lot of competition for all these positions. They're basically all open, and who knows? Maybe they'll be. This is just because we don't know who they are doesn't mean they're not going to be. They're really talented and be really productive this season. It's just we have not seen these guys play meaningful college football, so that'll be interesting to watch how it all shakes out. And like literally everywhere, every position on offense, I think has intrigue.
And last but not least, special guest, Austin Williams.
Yeah, I've got a couple things for Michigan. Like Jackson mentioned, life without Jim Harbaugh. That's going to be a big thing. I don't think we'll see it all in the spring game, but I think we're going to see bits and pieces. Sharon Moore, he got the keys to the Ferrari now. Jim Harbaugh gave him the keys. Let's see what he can do with it. And number 2 is replacing all that production. J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, Roman Wilson. That's a lot of production to replace. But let's see if Michigan can replace it, and let's see if they can get back in the playoff field like Jackson said.
Absolutely. And before we move on, we do have our final member of the panel. We're not taking anybody else tonight, FYI. But our final member of the panel, Penn State fan, Argraw, is back with us. Argraw, welcome back, and thanks for joining the Ocho.
Hey, not a problem. How you guys doing? It's been a while. It's been a minute.
Doing
Absolutely.
pretty good. How you doing tonight, Argraw?
Not too bad. I'd say in a pretty good mood for the most part after what happened over the weekend with the NCAA tournament. Not basketball. We're talking wrestling because Penn State over here. So, the way that it is, Cale Sanderson just racking up yet another championship. And
100 team points record, 172.5.
He did. And not only that, maybe the more impressive feat that they pulled off was they won by 100 total team points. The next closest team was Cornell. They were 100 points back. So absolutely mind-boggling what he is doing with that program. So I'm definitely pretty happy with that. If we can maybe find a way to get him to, find a way to be even an assistant coach on the football team, I think we'd be in good shape.
Can I just say something to Austin? Austin, I noticed that you said Sharon Moore was handed a Ferrari by Jim. You do realize that we're losing 17 to 22 people in the draft, right? So that's not really.
Yes,
I mean, our defense is pretty. Is there's a lot coming back on defense, but we're losing a lot of people on offense. So that's not really. I don't think that's really comparable to Ryan Day.
now what I meant
I knew
by that,
somebody
Moose,
was going to mention it.
what I mean by that, if this helps clear it up, is Michigan is in a better place now that Jim Harbaugh has left than it was before he got there. Is what I meant by that.
Okay,
Sharon Moore is given
I
a
get you
better
there.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
what
I mean, like,
Fanatic, I don't know if you're aware, but Ryan Day has won the game as a head coach.
Yeah.
He won his first one. He won his first one, and Michigan forfeited the second one.
Hey, all right. He definitely won the first one, yes. And yes, we did. We had COVID issues. The second one.
They were
COVID
Sean,
issues.
So, Sean, did you guys forfeit to Illinois the same year?
I don't think anyone
Ohio
State run scared of Illinois. Michigan, if they had to play that game, they could have.
Is that a double-edged sword or what? I mean, it's okay to do it in Illinois, but when Michigan does it, it's not okay.
Michigan did it because they knew they were going to lose. Ohio State didn't do that against Illinois because they knew they were going to lose to Illinois.
From what I understand, Ohio State would have faced off against a quarterback named Dan Villari because the other quarterbacks were under COVID protocol. So Dan Villari would have been the quarterback. And so based on that, I do agree that Ohio State would have definitively won the game because it was a complete dumpster fire that year anyway, even with the starting court, even with Cade there. Yeah.
But John, you know why Ohio State ducked Illinois, right? So they could slip into the playoffs. That's why they did that.
What? They ducked
Were they really
Illinois?
that scared of Illinois? I don't know.
Illinois so you can make the college football playoffs.
No. Here's why that logic is especially dumb. It made no sense for Ohio State to duck any games because remember we had to get a waiver that year to even play in the Big Ten championship game because a couple Maryland ducked the game against us. We sat out, weren't able to play against Illinois, and then Michigan sat out that game. So, yeah, there's there's no way they ducked the Illinois game because it almost hurt them.
Neither team is good for that. That's all I'm saying, Sean.
You can always count on Sonny from the Illini cast to give the Illinois take here. Everybody's afraid of fear them.
Shout out to Sonny as he has gotten past 500 subs at Illini cast. Let's help him get to 1,000 subs this offseason.
And Sonny, and I believe this is correct me if I get this wrong because this is a new banner and new stuff, but I believe you're going to be part of the Texas football channel at the Voice of College Football and contributing there too. So join us for our relaunch party of the Texas Longhorns channel at the Voice of College Football, April 8th, 7 p.m. Eastern. Also, quick housekeeping here. When you're doing your shopping on Amazon, as many of us do from time to time, some of us don't, and that's cool. But if you do, at any link on any video of the Voice of College Football Network, there's an Amazon link. If you click that, then Mark Rogers gets a couple of bucks instead of it all going to Amazon, which means we get to have more content, we get to have more guests, we get to have lots of things and upgraded equipment and all kinds of other things like that down the line. So go ahead and if you're already doing it, I literally just did it yesterday and got some stuff that I needed, some bananas and some various things for around Reynolds Wrap and very exciting things like that all over and a frame for my new JJ and Jim Harbaugh painting that's coming. So all of that you can get with the Voice of College Football link.
Did you have a painting commissioned for this?
It is not commissioned, but I saw it and I was like, it's that one, when JJ and Harbaugh it's that one that's like really, really popular shot of JJ's, and you can see like the McCarthy and the 9 and everything. It's It's good stuff. So I saw it on social and I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to get that. And so they also have given us permission to use the art for our Voice of College Football purposes. So pretty cool. So we thank them for that. Also, of course, Double J here is pulling up the merch store, because you can, for the college football fan in your life, get Mark Rogers Voice of College Football merch. Double J,
yeah.
you wanna elaborate on that?
Absolutely. This Sunday is Easter, and the Easter Bunny and the Easter Bagel are going to be bringing something nice. Could it be something from the Voice of College Football? Absolutely. They're going to be and they may get a Gizmo the dog to help them out with the Easter treats. As you can find it on topqualityshirts.com/MarkRogersTV, where you can get a gift card, keychain, this little mug here, like the white glossy mug. Or if you don't like the white glossy mug, you can get the top 25 that actually makes sense coffee mug. You can get a wine glass, especially for all the distressed parents that have to put up with the god-awful kid. Oh, my God. So, wine glass for you. And notebook. But if you're not a drinker, which a lot of people, you shouldn't be doing that. So, here's what you do. You write in the Voice of College Football notebook. You can write out all your feelings inside of it, and it will keep all your secrets safe for you.
Oh man, you really outdid yourself with this one.
I'm doing my best, but
And
you
you're
can
modeling
also
the coffee mug right now, aren't you? You're modeling the Voice of College. You have the Voice of College Football coffee mug nearby, right?
Yep, I got the top 25 that actually makes sense mug.
Yep,
and I'm drinking from the white mug at the moment.
there you go.
I gotta
There's
get
some
me a white
t-shirts.
mug, Double J. Man, you really sold that, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, and there's also some nice t-shirts and shorts, especially for summertime, for those that are sick and tired of spring already. So, I mean, and there's some slides, visors, denim jackets, t-shirts for the kids. There we go. Some t-shirts for the kids. So hoodies, bomber jackets, mouse pad, jigsaw puzzle, trucker cap, distressed dad hat, especially for all those stressed out dads. And of course, little pet bowl for your pets at the Voice of College Football.
For the pet, for the pet college football fans out there, absolutely.
Jackson, have you ever considered a future in auctioneering?
I hadn't even thought about it.
Well, Mark Rogers has commented, and he has said you have a future at QVC. So, so there you go. There you go.
Well, I love college football better than I do QVC, but I appreciate it.
Well, anyways, I think if that hasn't convinced you to at least get a mug or something, I don't know what will. So so go check that out when you get a second.
You can find these on your little Easter basket.
There you go.
Well,
Gizmo the dog will have them delivered to your house.
Well, John, I don't know if it's true, but I heard through the grapevine that you have a promo code, DeReal, and you get a 1% discount off of all. Get a 1% discount off on all merchandise.
Oh, the zingers are coming out. Yes, 1% discount. Yeah, we'll look at that. We'll have to get our buddy Joey to look into that for us.
Well, our girl, he didn't hear it, 0%. It's 0% this year. He asked for
0%. Yeah. So
I haven't been around for a while, so I haven't been keeping up on what the percentage is that it's constantly being put out. So if that's what it's at right now, okay.
Okay. So we all know, of course, that the if you haven't been living under a rock the last couple of years, the USC Trojans are now a member of the Big Ten, so they get to be covered on this show too. And we did have Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire a few weeks back on here. But the Trojans did have on the recruiting trail 2 5-star commits from Georgia, including 1 flip. So they were able to actually flip a player from Georgia, who, as we know, Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, just ranked Kirby Smart the #1 coach. And Justice Terry, a defensive player who plays defense, was flipped. That's I think the headline there. Notorious defensive coach Kirby Smart loses a 5-star defensive lineman to USC. And then of course also 5-star edge rusher Isaiah Gibson. So we'll start again with Jackson. You know, what does this mean for the Trojans on the recruiting trail? Are they finally heating up here?
I think it's huge, honestly. And what I got pulled up here is the story itself from Trojans Wire and USC Football at the Voice of College Football's very own Tim Prangley breaking this story as he gives his take on it. And I will say, for those that have been doubting USC, and I don't want to call it too early, but I really think people that are doubting Lincoln Riley and his abilities are really just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, good grief. Stop doubting.
Check it off your
Lincoln
bingo
Riley.
card, people.
There it is. Speaking of that, John, speaking of recruiting, since Alfred has gotten to Michigan, we got two high ranked aren't they 5-star running backs looking at Michigan now? Bo Jackson and somebody else.
Yeah, Bo Jackson. Yeah, that was a big.
And there's
big,
another
big
guy
name.
too. I think he's from Modern Day. There's another. I think there's a running back from Modern Day too. That's interesting. I can't think of his name, but he's a 5-star from what I heard.
Well,
And, you know, he also broke down the social media reaction to Justice Terry flipping to Georgia. So, and you know who you'll see it. Yep. Got the Trojan Blade giving his take on it. Arrogant Nation. The Dog Father making offers defensive linemen can't refuse. And he's got a On3 writer and host of Locked On USC, Mark Culkin, commenting about USC flipping one of the top DL recruits in the country. What? Golly, Bill. That I did not mean for that to happen.
yeah.
Must be the weather.
This is big. This is a big deal. I don't know. I don't think it can be emphasized enough how dropping Grinch and bringing in a defensive coordinator who, you know, I don't know any other way to say this, but is extremely competent, is already starting to pay some dividends. And to be able to flip somebody from Georgia, again, I'm just going to say that again, like it's Georgia, you know, going to USC. So, you know, congrats to USC on that. And we also want to just encourage everybody in about an hour from now to hop on over to, you know, like the Easter Bunny, hop on over to the USC Football Voice of College Football channel, where it's going to be Trojan Conquest Live. Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, Tim Prangley and Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire, both of them now will be giving their take on what's going on at USC. I anticipate the recruiting will be discussed. So you'll get to hear more and probably more in-depth takes on this stuff in about an hour from now.
And there's the kitty cat.
So if you watched UCLA the past couple of years, you saw that defensive line get after all the quarterbacks in the Pac-12. I mean, that's, you know, they've turned out some good ones there on this defense. So that has to be pretty attractive for any defensive front players to play in that scheme.
It's true. And I mean, Moose, you remember Coach Nua, and I mean, he took his lump, you know, for sure from fans, but I think he was a pretty solid D-line coach personally. I know he got some flack, but I think he did well, and clearly the recruits seems to be resonating. So good for them.
Sure is.
Okay. So some other news and then we'll get to discussion continually about spring practice and things like that. But we will briefly cover, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow night on Michigan Wolverines Live at 8 p.m. Eastern with TJ from Ronin Sports Talk, as well as analyst Ferris Khan. But Michigan, we're quick basketball news, because Michigan has hired a head coach, and not just any head coach, but FAU head coach Dusty May, who they flipped from Louisville last minute. So
That's impressive.
what does this mean, and who do we thank for it? We'll start with Moose.
I think flipping him from Louisville is pretty impressive, because I mean, Michigan is a basketball school, but they're not really. I think Louisville is known for more of a basketball school than Michigan is, so I think that's so him flipping him is pretty huge for Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other takes on this one?
Yeah, I know this may not sound biased, but I really thought we had us a winner. I mean, it seemed like all signs were pointing towards it. Like we were finally going to get us another good head coach. You know, Kenny Payne, had his 2 years. I'm more of a guy, you got to give coaches at least 3 to 4 years. Give them a chance to develop players, get talent. But the fan base was ready to throw him out. And I was like, okay, I understand. It was overwhelming. It had to be done. And I thought, Dusty May, he's a really good head coach. Look what he did in Florida Atlantic. Can he relay this to a historical program like Louisville and get us back to our glory days? But he flips to Michigan, and it's like, that tells you the state that we're in, John, that he would rather go coach at Michigan than come up to a more historical program, maybe even a better program in basketball than Michigan has been. And plus, we beat Michigan in the 2013 national title game too. So, that's a consolation.
Oh.
Well, not according to the NCAA record books, you didn't.
Now, here's the thing: we don't go by that.
Michigan lost to nobody in that game.
Yeah, they lost to the Ghost.
Yes,
but that's just my take on it.
I wish there was like a rule where it's just like you can get your wins back after like a certain amount of time. Like,
Yeah,
I wish
Michigan wants their natty. They want their natty for that. I think they deserve it.
like, if you had like vacated wins, that you should get them back like at a certain amount of time when you've been acting good for like a certain amount of years.
I don't know.
Thank you, Todd, for your advice.
It's like you just put the trophy on layaway, basically, and then you actually have to pay your debts back.
Night special.
But I mean, I do remember looking at this Twitter space from Locked On Louisville on Saturday the other day. I went on there for a little bit, and they were discussing like, what's the situation now? Oh, well, not getting Dusty May. That may just be a blessing in disguise. Who do we get? TJ Altzenberger? No, we don't know. Jerome Tang or this guy or that guy. We don't know. We don't know who Louisville's gonna get yet. But there was another big blow to them. Mark Byington leaving James Madison for Vanderbilt. That's another blow right there for Louisville.
That's an interesting one.
Well, y'all did. I mean, look, y'all did get Braum for football, and I told you, Austin, when he first got hired, he was going to turn things around real quick. I didn't think he was going to do that his first year, but I thought he would turn things around. So at least you got him for football.
Oh man,
yeah,
you should hear.
You and Jackson were like the two. Like, I was very like, I don't know what to think of this.
Yeah,
I know we did it at Purdue, but Purdue's very different. And it was just like.
Oh
Go
man,
ahead.
y'all should have heard like our phone calls from the off season. Like, he's like, "Oh, what's gonna happen with Jeff Braum at Lou?" I assured him. I told him, "You're gonna be very happy with it. It's gonna be a lot better than the Charlie Strong years. Heck, it may be even better than the Bobby Petrino years from the first stint."
And John, And John, I'm hearing four names for the replacement for Scruggs for defensive line, but we'll save that for the Michigan show. I won't mention it.
Yeah, we're gonna save all that. Yeah, because TJ was very
But I've
excited
been
to talk
hearing-
about that. I've already been
Yeah,
texting
I've
with
been
him. He's
hearing-
very excited about that. So
You know,
I am too.
we've lost a lot of legends in the Big Ten this offseason. The Bill O'Brien era coming to an end at Ohio
Yep.
State. You
we
know,
need
Greg,
Sarah
Well, John-
McLaughlin music for that.
Greg
Yeah.
Scruggs, Caden Proctor. I don't know how these schools are going to go on without their legends.
Yeah, John, I will say this. I hope it works out for y'all. I hope Michigan can get back to winning because it's good. It's good for the sport. So I hope Dusty May works out for y'all.
It'd be nice to just get back to average. I mean, as long as football's humming, just get back to average. Like, I'd be cool.
He's got his work cut out for him. Yeah, he's definitely got his work cut out for him. The first year is probably not going to be. Yeah, we're going to go through a little bit of struggle first, but I think he's a good enough coach that he can turn Michigan around again.
Yeah, I did want to mention something. You did something like one of the questions on the banner you had for that was something who deserves credit, Ward.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
I'm like, how
John
right now,
Beilein.
how is Ward still in his job? How is he not left?
Moose, you want to take that first, and then I'll pay you back?
Nothing can.
Can you repeat that, Sean, again?
How has Ward not been fired? Yeah. How is he still the athletic director at the school?
That's a $1 million question, Sean. Michigan fans don't know either why he's still there, to be honest. I really don't know because he's done a piss poor job at Michigan. A lot of people says he's done a good job, but I don't know. We lost Harbaugh. It took him forever to fire Howard. Howard should have been fired like halfway through the season. So I don't know what took so long for that. But yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Me and John talk about Ward all the time about why he's still here.
And I don't blame him much for the Harbaugh situation. Like, I don't think he could have done anything to keep Harbaugh at Michigan. I think he gets a little bit of a poor rap for that. But there are so many other things. I mean, you've had these scandals with the hockey team and these sexual hazing or whatever scandals that have been, and then you have obviously the stuff with Howard and with Sanderson, the strength and conditioning coach, how awkwardly and horribly that was handled and stuff. It's just like it's been one bad move after another with them. Just like looks bad. What were your thoughts on that?
So, I definitely, those of you who have not watched Michigan Wolverines live, if you have, my thoughts on this because I have said this many, many weeks. But those of you who haven't, essentially, Ward should have probably been let go for lots of reasons before now. But I think some of the most egregious in terms of football, even before the Harbaugh the Harbaugh situation, the only thing I give him a little credit for the 2020 decision to keep him is something I do give him credit for. I mean, many ADs would have fired the head coach in that scenario when you go 2 wins even during a COVID year. So. Give him credit for that, but literally almost everything else, his decision making from NIL and being behind the curve on that to allegedly being one of the people saying to donors, for a long time they didn't ask donors for NIL. They just didn't do it. It just wasn't what we did. It just wasn't what Michigan did. But yet almost every other major power was talking to their donors about NIL as a big piece, whereas with Michigan, not so much. And so, in my opinion, that was a huge miss. Not hiring a general manager until literally a couple of months ago, for managing it. Also a weakness, dealing with the Harbaugh and situation the way that he has. I mean, you just go on and on and on. I'm sure DF and Chad and some others will have more, but he just hasn't done a lot. Like, this was really the first active coaching search, national search he actually had to do, because almost every other was like hiring the interim, or it's just, he inherited Harbaugh from the interim AD. So yeah, and this one here was really Coach Beeline apparently was who pushed this over the edge, kind of pitching him on the idea of the Block M and pitching him on the idea of, what the power of the alumni network versus, some of the other schools out there. So
basically Ward Manuel is the Brad Brunell of athletic directors. He does just enough to keep his job when he's in trouble.
Who is this?
Brad Brunell's the Clemson basketball head coach.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what irritates me, John. Why did it take them so long to hire a GM for nil stuff? And I don't know what it is with Ward Manuel. He's just not the right fit for Michigan. I'm sorry, he's just not.
Yeah, I'd like to hire Coach Beeline, actually, because he's clearly demonstrated with this recent thing that he just did. He was able to sway a coach last minute from going to Louisville. So, in my opinion, that was a great audition for being the new AD.
Manuel, you're fired. John Beeline, you're hired.
Yeah, John, I didn't think Michigan was that far behind most schools in nil, but then I after evaluating it for a while, Michigan is farther behind than I actually thought. They got a lot of ground to make up, man, really.
Yep.
And that's from Ward Manuel. And part of that is from Ward Manuel.
Absolutely. All right. So I think we've covered basketball and firing the Michigan AD. And now we'll get to our segment of everybody talking about their team and how spring practice is going. And this is for everybody. I don't care if it's a Big Ten team or it's Alabama, because you're all guests on the show. And so we're going to talk about everybody's team. So J, Jackson, we'll start with you on the Alabama Crimson Tide and any nuggets that you're hearing from how things are going with their new head coach. For the first time since 2007, they have a new head coach, DeBoer.
Not too much, I'm afraid, but I am going to be curious to see what goes on in the first spring without Coach Saban. I'm still stunned about the retirement. Like, it wasn't so much about when he was going to leave, but it was just like, I knew this day would come. I just didn't think it was going to be happening. It's like, man, that happened.
Yeah. And he's really starting to get vocal about NIL now, because he was the initial interview. He didn't really touch on it with Reese Davis, but I will say that in recent weeks, he's been kind of getting pretty outspoken about, the players kind of coming, with Miss Terry and asking, instead of, how am I going to benefit in life, asking about, how much I'm going to get paid. And you can argue Saban, was doing NIL before NIL was a thing all you want, but he does have a point that the shift in mentality has happened a bit.
Yeah. I remember the congressional address where I saw Saban I saw Senator Sheriff of Nottingham with him. Senator Cruz kind of looks and sounds like him. He's like, well, looky there. I'm just collecting it for Prince John.
Oh, good
Prince
Lord.
John says, Pat, should hurt.
Well, Saban has a point, John. When he was in court, he was talking about, back in the day when he coached, players were more interested in getting a good education and development and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He said,
I don't know about that.
These kids,
Players have
these
been
kids,
shepherded through school for a long time at all these schools.
Yeah, he said these kids now they want all they want is money. It's about everything is about money. They want it up front, and he's like the college football has completely changed. It's the whole thing, the atmosphere. It's not the same anymore. And he said that had a lot to do with his decision to retire because he didn't want to coach in that kind of atmosphere anymore. He liked it the way it was, and I respect him for that. For saying it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be
NIL.
interesting to see him.
I
on
mean, now
college
that the players
game.
actually have a little bit of power and he doesn't get to be a dictator, I got to get out of here. I don't know. I kind of respect him less for that. I just like, you know what? He's been great. He's been for college football, and I respect him enormously as a man.
I just wonder what's
It's
gonna be
weird.
like, for when week 3 hits. Like we know game day is gonna hit for Alabama, Georgia for week 5 because I mean they already got it. I mean they put it in a year in advance. That's gonna be on ABC 6:30 p.m. I mean, I know they'll be there for that, but for Alabama, Wisconsin week 3, I wonder if we'll see like bid noon kickoff and college game day there for that game. And we'll see like Mark Ingram from Fox and Nick Saban having like a Instagram photo together. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Just
boy.
going back to the NIL thing. I don't blame Saban for getting out of there when he did. That's a giant headache, and I certainly I don't view him as respecting him any less because of that. And it's not. I wouldn't say it's he can't be a dictator. It's he's the head. He's the face of the program. He's the head coach. He needs to make sure that he keeps people in line. He's going to be the one that has the final say. But NIL completely changes that. I was actually able to speak with the head of the NIL department over at Penn State a couple weeks ago, and he basically said, it's crazy. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and it's not as if there's a lot in terms of regulation or anything. It's weird. They're under contract, but they're not really under contract, and they can walk in and demand something and say, I want this amount of money. And then the next day they can walk in and say, well, I want even more money now. And there's really nothing to keep them from doing that. And then with the transfer portal, it makes it messy. Oh, well, you're not going to pay me. Fine. I'll go somewhere else. And who knows, going back to that whole Georgia thing with Georgia USC, that very well could have been what it was. Georgia didn't want to pay a 5-star, and he went to California where there's a really big economy. And hey, don't worry about it. We'll get you some donors and sponsors, and you'll make all kind of money.
I mean,
Sean,
I know that.
I was just saying, like if people are going to be like prima donnas and divas about it, you're not necessarily losing a lot by showing them the door. I mean, this is where all these coaches are going to have to figure out a balance between sort of respecting the new leverage players have and completely capitulating and becoming weak and ineffective as a head coach.
Yeah.
I just want to finish this real quick.
Okay.
So, I mean, like with the game changing, you're going to see sort of different types of people thriving. And it's like if you study evolution or stuff, when the environment changes, new species, a lot of old species will die out. And then a lot of new species, will come in that are more suited to the new environment. So, that's what we're going to see. We may not see these really, these uptight kind of slave driver coaches succeed anymore. It will be probably people, coaches that are better with people, have stronger soft skills, and maybe a little less egotistical.
Wow.
Than the coaches we have had up through the state. I mean, just because it's changing doesn't mean it's changing for the worse. Things,
Right.
it's just It's just going to be different. It's not necessarily worse.
Right.
More soft skills.
Yeah.
And I always hear like one or two people always saying, these players are not like college football players from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when they thought more about their commitment to that universe. It's like, whoa. Here's the thing, though. Things aren't like 40 years ago or 50 years ago. And what would you do if you were 18 years old or 19 years old and you were offered a godly amount of money to go to this university or that university to not just make your life better for you, but to make life better for those around you? I mean, what would you do?
Well, yeah. I mean, you could go play for hardball and get a lifetime supply of cheeseburgers if you wanted to. It's crazy.
Oh man.
Well, John, this is why I respected Saban when he said that. He was talking about how before when he came to Alabama, it was about you come here, you get a good education, you stand by your commitment, and you can get developed, and you can go to the NFL and make money. That was his whole pitch.
Right.
But now it's like now it's just I just think there's no loyalty anymore in college football. Back in the day.
He had another part to be fair, Moose. He had another part of his pitch. He took the rings off and put them down on the table and said, "Any questions?" So he did do that. That was also part of his pitch too. The 6 or 7 rings he could just throw on the table there.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not against people getting paid. These kids getting paid nowadays. That's fine if that's what it is now. That's fine. But my issue with some of these newer recruits nowadays is they're like I said, they're unloyal. Like a kid will go somewhere, they'll drop him back. It just happened in Iowa. They drop Proctor a bag, and now all of a sudden he's about to go flip and go back to Alabama. So when you drop bags like that, there's no guarantee that recruit's going to stay. I mean that's what I don't like about
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think you're on to something because I don't think you can't have both. It seems like at least without some serious regulation happening, you can't have NIL and just the transfer portal because of situations like you just said, where hey, I'm going to get my money. Hey, look at this. This is great. By the way, sorry, I'm going to go somewhere else now. And it's almost like you'd be robbing donors blind potentially. So yeah. If there's not going to be some kind of serious oversight, then you really can't have both of those things at the same time. At least it seems like anyway.
And John, we were talking about it the other day that there needs to be some kind of rule, some kind of leveling with this mill stuff. Remember we was talking about that? Like you can't like a rule where if you transfer to a school, you can't transfer for a whole year. I mean, you're stuck there. You can't leave.
Yeah. We were talking about Mark Rogers. Contractual. Having some type of contractual framework. I hate to. Go ahead. One more thing.
What other element in society are you constricted like that? Like if you took a job and then 2 months later you got a better offer for a different job.
Yeah,
you're completely able to move on. There's no law that's ever going to stop you from doing that.
The NFL, the NBA.
I was going to say the NFL. That'd be
executive level contracts,
or like business. Regular life as well. Because I mean, if you had like a job offer that offer you more money than the place you're currently working at, you would take it. You're not going to have some perfect PR answer by going, "Oh, I love where I'm at." This isn't a Hollywood movie. This is real life.
John, do we have some breaking?
Yeah, I have to cut this short. So I'm still calling it a strong rumor.
Oh my god.
But it is definitely heading towards confirmed, but it is still, I'm calling it a strong rumor that is likely to be confirmed by tomorrow night's show. But Michigan safety Rod Moore tore his ACL, and he will be out for the season.
No way, dude.
Yes.
That's a huge
so one of our impact players last year, obviously was a key component in the Ohio State game. Obviously was very, very notable. Without that, there's an argument that could be made that Marvin Harrison Jr. goes and does his thing, and they go and Ohio State wins that game without that catch. So
I hope he's doing okay.
Prayers, thoughts.
He came back too, John. This is terrible, man. He came back for another year.
Yeah, it's not great.
This is a guy who could have been drafted fairly high, like second, probably a day 2 pick if he comes out this year. I mean, so that is very unfortunate. I mean, bad timing. It's going to, unfortunately, probably have a very significant impact on his future. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he might have to go portal shopping. And Michigan also lost a very talented safety in the portal too, and it might have had something to do with Rod Moore's decision to return. So, this is a very unfortunate situation for Michigan, but more importantly for Rod Moore. And just hope he does okay. He's Northmont High School, where my cousins graduated from. So very familiar with that area.
Ralph making a great point that Quentin Johnson deciding to come back for a 6th year is monumental now, whereas before it was still pretty notable, and he was going to play a huge role, but now he has an opportunity to be a starter in that role potentially. So very huge, very huge. And just in general, I mean, we're hearing also something about Caleb Downs that there's some. I'm not going to report this as fact, but I checked the Twix about some following and unfollowing going on. If you want more information on people like Caleb Downs and their considerations of other schools like Michigan, but. Anyway, rough waters there. Huge part of the defense last year.
I like Johnson, but he's no Rod Moore. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, let's get some comments here. Losing Rod Moore is a huge blow. I mean, look, he's a huge, like I said, big impact player. As we talked about. Keon Sabb leaving is also bigger now. Yeah, because Sabb would have slid into that role. So yeah, that's very notable. But it means more portal shopping, and there's already going to be a couple of position groups they're going to look at in the portal, and including apparently like the ones you would guess, like cornerback and ones like that. But apparently defensive line. They want to. There's the potential to try to get another defensive lineman. So they're looking for a couple roles already. I anticipate now safety is going to be something that they look for some depth on. Okay, let's go back to just thoughts. Like I said, thoughts and prayers. All the best. I hope he's able to recover well and get into the draft and do extremely well for himself next year. He's got a lot of good film on tape, so he's got that going for him. So back to everybody talks about your team, Moose. Obviously, aside from that, and we'll be covering that a lot more tomorrow night. Now that'll be probably our breaking news story. But obviously, huge things happening in Michigan for spring, as we've already talked about with the spring game a bit. But any other nuggets you wanted to share as far as Michigan's spring practice and what's going on there?
Well, I did hear that Michigan just had a big a big weekend had a bunch of recruits in visiting too during some practices. So hopefully that's good news. I heard a lot of them are, big time top players, so top 100 players. So that's good. No, haven't really heard much. Just what I mentioned earlier about DJ Waller. Getting a lot of talk about him.
Yep.
Curious to see how the quarterback's doing, the offensive line. I know the defensive line. I know the defense is going to be really good again because I got mostly everyone coming back. So good. I think Kenneth Grant's going to have a big year. I think Graham will be good.
You've always
too,
been
but
big on him, Moose. You have been big on him
Yeah.
since day one, and you were right.
I think he's going to break through this year. I think he's going to have more sacks this year. I really do. At least 6 or 7.
Yeah. Let's go with Sean. Obviously we've already covered a bit with the spring game, but any other nuggets you wanted to share for spring?
Apparently, to absolutely nobody's surprise, Jeremiah Smith is a badass.
Breaking news.
He became the fastest Buckeye ever to lose their black stripe. If people aren't aware of the tradition, the red stripe underneath the helmet is concealed with a piece of tape for all incoming players, and that tape, once they feel you've put in the work and you've met certain expectations, they take it off. And he had it there for about 2 days before they just said, yeah, you're an actual Buckeye now. So yep, big time stuff from him. The hype for him is bigger than I've ever seen any Ohio State player. I hope he can handle it. Everything I've heard about him and the way he handled the recruiting process, I think he's a very mature, focused, and driven person. So I think he'll be able to produce. And other than that, yep, just went over a lot of the position battles and stuff. So again, I'll say it again. This is the most talented team in the country. So very excited for the upcoming season.
There you go. Now, Argraw, the floor is yours. How's Penn State doing?
I haven't really followed too much in terms of like the reporting itself, although I was over for practice, their first day of pads. I was over for that practice, and I did get a chance to sort of see them in person. There's obviously going to be, a lot of question marks because you have a new defensive coordinator. Manny's out of there now. Although it's not as if you are getting someone who's unknown with no experience. I mean, you're getting a pretty good name. You're getting a veteran in Tom Allen. And then from there, a new offensive coordinator. Then you're going to have some other questions because you're going to lose some key players, impactful players, whether it's on the offensive line with Olu or it's on defense with, Chop or somebody. And then, interestingly enough, if, maybe you haven't been following Abdul Carter, who, is sort of the standout linebacker for Penn State, is actually going to make the transition. He's going to be moving into D-end from linebacker. So we'll sort of have to see how that pans out. He actually was initially recruited as a D-end, but then supposedly he and his parents sort of insisted, no, he's a linebacker. So he ended up playing as linebacker, and he did a great job at it. But, now he's going to have to maybe put on a little bit of weight here and, do whatever he needs to do to get himself prepared and make that transition into the line. Although I will say, when I saw him in practice, he looked great. He was very fast. He was very athletic, very quick off the ball. He looked great. So, obviously it's not a game scenario. It's not a game situation, but from what I did see, I was pretty happy. The offensive line looked really good. I was able to watch them do some reps out on a practice field, and then also some just practice drills himself. They looked pretty good from what I could tell. They, obviously they're going to have returning talent. They still have a couple great running backs that they're going to be able to rely on. They're going to have a couple really good quarterbacks they're going to be able to really rely on too. So skill wise, you do have some good. You have some returning talent that's going to be really good. It's going to be impactful. The big thing I think is going to be, what is the receiving core going to look like? That's going to be a major question mark, because that was definitely the Achilles heel last year. They didn't have that deep threat, and that really crippled Aller from reaching his full potential. And that's a shame, because of that, I really thought that Franklin, as good as Aller is, 5-star, all of that stuff, he really should have been relying more than what he did anyway with Bo Prabiola, because he's the more athletic quarterback. He was mobile. He could make something happen, which is great. If you don't have that deep threat, you can sort of stretch out the field that way. So we'll see if this new offensive coordinator coming in from Kansas is able to sort of utilize him or not. I don't really know. And then I will say one thing that I didn't like that I saw from practice, where I had some question marks, is as good as the defense always is every single year. I was left scratching my head because they did a open field tackling drill. They're one-on-ones, one versus one, they're ones on offense and defense, and it looked terrible. Like, they could not open field tackle at all. It was. I mean, I had a coach of another coach. It was a chalk talk. It was a coach's clinic, and I had another coach next to me, and he was like disgusted with what he was seeing. So I'm hoping that Tom Allen has a little bit of time and patience to be able to clean that up a bit. But that could be me making a mountain out of a molehill, because let's face it, they're great every year on defense. But just from the little bit I saw, that's kind of the thing that on defense anyway that I really saw that I didn't like. They had horrible open field tackling.
Uh-oh.
I can't wait to see what Andy Kotelnicki brings to that Penn State offense in 2024. Because he did a great job at Kansas. I can see him doing better at Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the hope. I mean, he's got plenty of weapons, to sort of use, to utilize, whether it's the quarterback position, running backs, whether it's the tight end room. They always have great tight ends, and they got their transfer in at wide receiver from Ohio State. So we'll see what the impact is there. But hopefully he's going to be able to make a turn there, because they certainly didn't have things clicking under Yersich, that's for sure.
And he did say, looks like that Drew Aller's yearning to improve all the time. And he said, we want our players to learn how to self-reflect. And if you can learn to do that, I think that makes you better than 97% of the people out there. Because 97% of the population has never looked in the mirror and said, this is what I need to improve on. And Drew Aller embodies the idea of looking in the mirror, taking ownership, good or bad, and growing and improving. Kudos to him for just taking that the coach speak to a new level, because that actually was pretty insightful. And normally it's just, they're looking to get better. But I thought that was pretty cool.
I do hope that Drew Aller can get better at the big games this year. I would like to see him win a big game.
Yeah.
I think Drew Aller, can benefit maybe from a sports psychologist stuff, because if you watch him, when you see him throw the ball, sometimes it looks really, really good. Mm-hmm. But he just seems to crumble in certain moments. He just didn't look ready for that job next year. But if he comes out and balls out this year, I really won't be that surprised.
Argo, I'm more intrigued about your defense more than your offense. You guys lost Chop Robinson and Caleb King and some other guys. I'm just curious, how is your defense looking this year? How many new players do you got?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they still have returning talent. Isaac was another one that was really good. Yeah, he was great. So that was sort of another one that's sort of that's a hole to fill. But they did a really good job rotating guys in and out, and they have been doing a really good job about that the last few seasons, where those guys underneath them are able to get a lot of reps in. For as much flack as the offense got, if I remember right, I think they were like the highest averaging scoring offense in the Big Ten last year. I mean, they got a lot of games where they could start pulling starters out on both offense and defense, and they were able to get a lot of reps in. So those second and third string, defensive players, they were able to see that field quite a bit. And like I said, Bill Carter, he's going to be sort of, I think, the keystone of that defense, and especially with that transition onto the line, I think he'll be able to do well enough. And like I said, from what I saw, he looked pretty good.
That's good. That's good, Argro, to get that your other players that aren't experienced are getting reps in. That's really good, because that's what Michigan did last year too, with Grant and other people, because they were rotating a lot on defense, and they were getting fresh bodies in, so they were all getting experience. So that's really important.
It is. And when you have a team that can be in that position, that is such a huge deal. Obviously, you think to yourself, oh, well, that's good because it looks good on paper and it can help you with your rankings. And obviously, sure, there's that component of it. But when you're able to do that, you're building the future. The future is happening right in front of you. You're getting meaningful reps in. And that is really going to pay dividends moving forward. And that happened with, that happens with teams that are usually pretty stacked and pretty good, whether it's in Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State. If you look in the SEC, if it's Georgia, it doesn't matter. You'll have a lot of bench players getting some meaningful time in there, and you can backfill, and that makes that transition that much easier and smoother.
Yeah,
So Doug,
I don't agree with Doug Shepard on this comment.
Doug has a positive take on this. Only looked bad against two of the top 5 defenses in the country. Not too bad for a young player. Was it only those games that he looked not great? I don't know.
The only other game that I can think of where he didn't look as good as he should have was it's Illinois. Yeah, Illinois. I think it was
Illinois.
They had a rough time there, like the first half. So they, he eventually was able to right things and whatnot. But I mean, he looked good in a lot of other games. Some of them were bigger games. That West Virginia game, for example, he looked phenomenal. They lit up a really good Iowa defense at home. They beat them 31-0 or something like that. So I mean, he was able to do a lot of good things. There was a lot of positive things for him to build off of. But yeah, the biggest issue for him was maybe there's times where he's trying to force the ball. A lot of times they were just check downs and things like that. And again, that goes with that receiving core. He didn't have that reliable deep threat. And then on top of everything else, like I said, I think Yursich he did not have it when it comes to being an offensive coordinator. And I think that gummed up the works even more.
Yeah, I do think, what was it, a 48.7% completion in the bowl game would have been improved if he had a deep threat, to your point, Argraw.
Well, and then the other thing, too, is they were really playing from behind the 8 ball in that game, because the defense is like, yeah, we're just going to go to the NFL now. And then adios Chop, adios Isaacs, adios King, they were gone. They weren't showing up. So that what happens on the defense will ultimately affect on how you play on the offense too. So that was a big issue for them. Unfortunately,
I hope our Lions get Chop Robinson, because that guy's a dog. That guy's a really good player.
He's phenomenal. He is so good. And any team would be chomping at the bit to get him. I understand there might be some other needs, like a quarterback or something, but if you need a defensive player, I mean, in the NFL, they're gonna have to take a close look at him. He's gonna be great.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Chop is a great, you had a couple of them. You had the offensive tackle that was absolutely ridiculous. What's his name again?
Fashanu.
Yeah, Fashanu. Holy crap.
Olu.
Yeah,
It's
Shanu.
Olu.
Hey, John, do you know Max Crosby, that defensive lineman from Eastern Michigan that's in the NFL? He
Yeah, I've
plays
heard
for
of
the
him.
Raiders.
Yeah.
He's really, really good. Yeah, they did an interview with him. They did an interview with Max Crosby and sat him down and asked him if you could go to any other team that's not the Raiders right now, who would it be? You know what he said?
What do you say?
Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions.
There it is.
That guy's an elite. He's an elite lineman too. Can you imagine if he
That would
ends up
be
signing with Detroit? Him and
that would be
Hutch.
something.
Oh my God,
Look out.
that'd be a wrap. That would be a wrap.
DF does want to ask Argra, and then we're going to go to final thought and where can people find you because we're running up. We want to get everybody over to USC Trojans Live, aka Trojan Conquest Live. DF asks, what about the interior defensive line? And what are they working on that this year?
Yeah, as far as I know, there's not too much I can say. I think for the interior of that line, like I said, you do have a lot of players that had meaningful reps. It was sort of like a carousel there. So the players that maybe are backfilling, there's still players that are available that have started. That are going to be in that interior part of the line. So I think they're going to be okay there. I think it's going to be solid. They still have a really good linebacker that could sort of backfill for Abdul Carter, since you're going to be taking him out, putting him on the edge now. So I think they're going to be okay overall. Like I said, the only thing that concerned me was that drill with all those missed open field tackles. But again, it was literally the first day of pad practice. They have an insane amount of time to get better on that, and their defense is always good. So that could just be me, making something out of nothing. So I guess I'm not going to get too hung up on that. But yeah, there you go.
There you go, DF. So stay tuned. All right, so we're on our final segment here. Final thought, and where can people find you? I'm going to go in reverse order this time. We're going to stay with you, Argra. Give us a final thought for us here at the Ocho, and I don't think you have social, but maybe you changed that in the last couple of months. But other than that, final thought.
Apart from here in like Facebook, that's pretty much it. I still don't have a Twitter. I still don't, it's better that I spend enough time on my phone. I don't need to spend any more time. So it's for the best. As far as the final thought, I will say, going back to, like I said, being able to be at that practice, it was great. It was a great experience. And being able to talk to Tom Allen was great. He's such a great guy. Like, he's very, approachable. He's very humble. He's very polite. And I will say this, I won't get into the whole thing. We were doing like a happy hour deal at the end of the chalk talk. I was at the table. I looked over, he's standing by himself, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I walked up over to him. He was just standing there by himself. And the first question that came out of my mouth, and you'll appreciate this, was, how pissed were you when you found out about the Michigan scandal and them and Connor Stallions filming things? And the first thing he said is, "Don't even get me started." And then he went on a bit of a tangent after that. So I felt pretty good about that. And then he actually did express some things because I followed up with the whole thing with Fitz and how that was handled. And I obviously, there's no time now to get into that, but he had some pretty interesting insights of that, because that was something else that I was very interested to see how other coaches viewed something like that as well. But he was a very great guy, very approachable, and I have a lot of confidence in him, and I think he's going to get it done. Those are big shoes to fill for Manny Diaz, but I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, no more videos of the this stuff. Manny Diaz before the game where I'm pretty sure he lost that game. If I recall, maybe a little less of this, and then I think you might pull it out against some of the teams.
We'll see.
Big games, yeah. Well, I think it's good for the sport if Penn State, pulls off a big game. I do. I'm one of those people, even though we're rivals, it's still good. So we'll see how it goes. All right, our girl, anything else for us?
No, that's it. Just great, calling back in. It's been a while, and have a good night to you and everyone else.
Thanks, our
You
girl.
too.
Later.
Good night, Argo.
All right, Sean, up on to you for final thought.
Well, I have to apologize for the lack of Mary Mack and Robert Morris talk tonight. Anyone that watched the After Dark show,
After Dark.
Yeah, nice
Oh,
little tidy 3-hour Mountain West conference preview.
I mean, we're the same people that talk about Syracuse coaching situation for 30 minutes. I mean, you never know with us.
You never know. That's
Absolutely.
true.
And we had a foot of snow this weekend when it was officially spring.
Wow.
So yeah, living here actually is starting to bother me a little bit. This should not be happening once in April. So I appreciate everyone for coming by, and I'll see you next week.
Later, Sean. Thanks for being here. All right, next up, we got Moose. Final thought, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jason Moose, Jason/Moose _ 313.
There it is.
I'm also on YouTube. My final thought is I'm kind of bummed now after hearing about Rod Moore, but injuries are a part of the game. They happen, and I'm sure Michigan will try to get someone in the portal or somebody. They'll figure something out. A lot of things coming up. We got spring football on April 20th. Can't wait for that. The spring game. We got Michigan hockey playing this weekend in the Frozen Four, so hopefully the boys can get a W, and that's about it, John. Just ready for football to start.
Let's
Thanks,
go.
everyone, for coming.
And it's going to start in 5 days with the United Football League. So we will have football in 5 days. So there you go.
I'm glad you mentioned that too. I have to write that down now. Yeah, I'm just so glad that football is coming back pretty soon. And yeah, well, thanks everyone for coming to the show, and thanks for having me on again, John. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And you guys have a good night.
Later, Moose. Go Blue.
You too.
Go Blue.
And last but not least, we got Jackson.
Well, final thought. Well, it's getting close to Easter. I'm getting excited about all that candy, that's for sure. But I will say though, it's gonna be fun seeing what happens in the college football world and in the college basketball world. Oh, ironically, Will and D and I will be discussing the latest in what's going to be happening the Sweet 16 Thursday and Friday, and we'll be recapping the round of 32 tonight on these links on my channel at Jackson Johnson's 979 and on Will and D. We will be discussing all that. And also, there's episode 29 of the Jacksonian from last Wednesday when I had on Jackson Holzer from host of Locked On Syracuse, where we discussed what's going on with Syracuse. Are they safe? Are they not safe? Please don't tell me they're going to be like Oregon State, Washington State. Don't let them get screwed over. And we basically had a venting session about how god awful Virginia basketball is. And we talked about whether there'll be NCAA tournament expansion and so much more.
Wow.
And I'm getting close to 500 subs each day, and every day I'm hustling. I'm 192 subs away, and I can't do it without your help. I am, for those that don't know what my channel is, it's at Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube. And you can also find my latest updates on what's going on in my world and what's going on everything else on Twitter at Jackson09960335 and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. Stick around. It's going to be a wild ride.
Thanks as always for being on the Ocho, Jackson.
Thanks
Later.
for having me on, John.
All right. And with that, a couple of quick last minute housekeeping things. Tomorrow night, check out Michigan Wolverines live with myself, TJ, and Ferris Khan. We will probably be discussing Rod Moore as well as a crap load of other topics. The outline's getting pretty long, so we're going to have a pretty jam-packed show. If you want your comment or question, you're going to need to super chat on that one because, yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff tomorrow night. And Ferris also guesting is going to add even more, which we are excited about, introducing him to the Voice of College Football Network in a larger way. Also, don't forget that Wednesday night, we've got the State of Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers. Friday nights, we have Big Ten Live with Mark Rogers, where you can actually, I think, if we get that going, you can pick up the phone and call and give your take on things. We have the Texas show, the Texas channel relaunching. Very exciting there. And then finally, of course, coming up next in about 8 minutes, we've got Trojan Conquest Live with Mark Rogers, as well as Matt Zemek and Tim Prangley, both now from Trojans Wire. And they're going to be discussing the recruiting news, as there was just a major flip, as we reported, from Georgia to USC. So check that out. I'm going to go ahead and put the link here so that you can just head right on over there in 7 minutes. Go on over there. Tell them John sent you. Why not? And who knows? Yeah, maybe Tim and Mark are going to go at it again. You never know what you're going to get on Trojan Conquest Live here at the Voice of College Football USC channel. So get on over and enjoy that. If nothing else, just get on over there. Just pop that like button on. And don't forget to hit the like button here if you didn't do it here. But at least do that before you bounce, if you need to bounce. Otherwise, help support all of our shows on the network. We do appreciate that. Until tomorrow night, my name is John Diadamo, and I was your host tonight. You can follow me at Twix at John Diadamo. And tomorrow night, I will be hosting. Next week, I will not be hosting anything because I'm going to Las Vegas. So I will not be hosting anything. We will have likely no Ocho, and we will likely have Mark hosting Michigan, but TBD on that. That's going to be decisions made out of my head, above my head. So, but I know one thing: I will not be here. So don't expect me next week because I got business to do. So we have a big conference. It's going to be very exciting. So go ahead and follow me if you'd like, and go ahead and head on over to Trojan Conquest Live on the USC channel. And until next time, as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us.